So online here I have with us is Pete Netzal, who is one heck of a researcher. And Pete, I guess you've figured out how to get into all the old newspaper articles and research that, and you got a great story to tell how you got involved in that. And so with that said, Pete, just kind of take it away, your research tips and techniques and what you've been doing about your books that you've put out with all kinds of information in them. Take it away, Pete.
Okay, first off, what got me interested in this treasure stuff for metal detecting is after I got out of the Army, I went to the library a lot and I ended up checking out books on fishing and everything under the sun. And I found these In Search of Treasure, a 1 through 5 series by Thomas P. Terry. So I would read them, and it was like you were with him on the adventure. And I'd take him back to the library, and well, he had other books out, Mobster Millions, all sorts of books, 10-volume United States Treasure Atlas. And then I'd read them, and later on I'd check them back out, over and over these books. And one day I decided, let's see, one book he tells about growing up in La Crosse. I looked in the phone book, here he was, and I called him up, and I actually caught him a few minutes of his time, and I said, yeah, I read your books all the time. I'm thinking of getting a metal detector. How much money should I spend? Any surprising answer was, not much. If you're going to find something, you will. Mm-hmm. And so that was...
And I agree with him. You don't need the top of the line metal detector. You just need a metal detector. The more gadgets and knobs and stuff's on it, the harder it is for you to learn how to figure out how to use it. And if you don't know how to use it up, man, you'll mess up and you'll miss the good treasures. So sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it was good advice, because at that time in my life I didn't have squat. So I was at the starting point. So anyway, that was like around 1985. I didn't get the metal detector till 2000. It just got pushed back. I had other hobbies. I'm sure anybody that their hobbies change over time, or they get real into it, and sometimes we just change hobbies.
Yep.
So anyway, I was working, and I met this gal that became my second wife, and I had a problem with my foot, and I ended up having a joint replacement in my foot.
Wow.
And so I didn't want to sit around the house for 3 months, and I told her I wanted to get a metal detector. So we went to this one dealer in town, and she didn't like the price on these, and so we ended up going to and getting a metal detector at Radio Shack. So here I had this Radio Shack detector, and the first night of my getting it, I'm out on basically one leg because my joint replacement was in my foot. And so I was hitting beaches and trying to find something. And anyway, I did what everybody did. I went to the first place you thought of, which was where everybody else has already been.
Yep.
And so I didn't know anybody metal detecting. I didn't know anybody in a club. I didn't even know there were metal detecting forums. And so I kept track of like how I was doing. I'd find the occasional token. I'd find once in a while an Indian head penny or a mercury dime. But one day there was like where they tore a house down. And so it was a demo site. And I got in there, and all of a sudden, wow, my oldest coin jumped to an 1874 Indian head penny like that.
And you're just letting out a secret right now, you know, that a lot of people don't know, that when they start tearing down old houses, old buildings, the streets, that's when you want to go check their dirt piles where the building used to be, because just like you said, there's a lot of old things there that got buried. You know, I found old tax tokens, no people that have found gold coins where they've dug up these old buildings because they get their dirt dug down. And so, you just let out a great secret there.
It's all in my book.
Oh,
I did a metal
awesome.
detecting book. I used to make more money a week selling on eBay, off of eBay, than I did on my job off my paycheck.
Really?
I started hammering them places. Whatever job I had, I picked the late shift or shift to where I got off. The demo crews are gone. It's
Yep.
all to myself, and I hunted it at night
Really?
in the dark. And so it's just like people go, well, how do you find it in the dark? And I go, well, if it was daytime, it's in the ground. I can't see it either way. You
That's true. That's
know.
true.
So I just move it, dig the hole. I'd have the dirt pile over here. The signal ain't in the hole. You start scanning handfuls of dirt, and eventually you got it in your hand and just sift her down lower and lower. And if your street light was a block away, you could still hold it up and see. That's like an
Yeah.
Indian head. My eyes were way better back then. So anyway, I started keeping track of these coins I was digging, and the closer I got to the first start of the center of the city, the coins got older and older and older.
Ah,
And so the sidewalk tear-ups, well, back then the streets were just as narrow as they were today. So when they tore up a cement sidewalk, that's where the old wooden boardwalks were.
yep.
And before that, it was paths. So anything that was dropped, if it made it through the crack or in the street before they were paved, it was in the mud and it was there forever. They tear up a sidewalk, it's laying there. Until sidewalk's gone, those coins are this far down. Sometimes deeper, but it was like shooting fish in a barrel. It was any positive signal, it's going to be coin, a token, and the older coins, they
Yep.
read lower than the modern nickel. I remember one time on TNet, I said, yeah, I'm going to go hunting, and within a little over an hour, I was back, and I started a thread. All I found was 10 cents, but it was both shield nickels.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I knew my demo sites to go hit, hunt, take my photos, crop them, and up, boom. That's it. In fact, the TNet thing was kind of a funny, interesting story, too. So, anyway, I had read Terry's books, got the detector. Later on, I find there's this metal detecting forum called TNet. And so I joined that, and this was after I found my gold coin. And so,
Now tell about that. Tell about that gold coin find. But go ahead, finish your story. But then tell about that gold coin find.
I got called a liar for what I found.
Really?
I was hunting this one house demo site, and it was like the first year I found 17, or I can't even say it was a year. I only metal detected for 18 months, really,
Huh?
before I hit a gold coin. And then shortly after that, we moved to Montana. But the first season, I had like 17 keeper coins, silver, Indian heads, buffalo nickels. I never counted the wheat pennies. And so the next year, well, as I got better finding sites, 34 coins. So I was trying to get to 68 coins. And I just called the season from the time you could dig the ground to when it froze up.
Uh-huh.
So anybody in the northern part of the Midwest knows all about sticking your trowel in and it don't go. It's over.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had 3 coins to go to double what I had the previous season. So I hit one demo site. I couldn't find nothing. I'd hammered those demo sites, but I figured I can squeeze out a couple more coins. I hit another one. Nothing. I hit another one. And I had told my friend who lived 2 blocks away to get down to this one. It's right near his house. And the previous time they had a bobcat on there. And they had parked right on this one area that they had shaved down. And I come back on that. It was actually November 29th. the day before my birthday. I come back, that bobcat's moved. And so I got my bounty hunter detector, and this yard's shaved down this far. And so when they're like that, you don't find pull tabs, you don't find modern change.
Yep, you're down to the old stuff. Yeah.
And so I'm going along and I get the screw cap reading. And so I scanning my coil over it, I turn screw cap. I stick my trowel in and pop up and up flips. I pick it up. And it's like your brain's numb. The gold coin.
Wow.
And I could see the date, 1843, and I turn it over, and it's got a D mint mark.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, oh, great, Denver. I didn't register right away. Denver didn't exist in 1843. I found a Dahlonega out of that branch mint of Georgia.
Wow.
And when I posted that up on TNet, I guess people didn't believe this person hunting with a Radio Shack pulled up a Dahlonega gold coin. And so, anyway, it was kind of weird. I got called a liar. Finally, it made Western Eastern Treasures best find issue.
Oh, really?
But even though I sent in photos, they couldn't find the photos and used the coin dated 1848.
Oh, so they used the
wrong.
wrong.
Made it look like I lied.
Oh, terrible.
And then it made Silver and Gold, my article, with the right photos. And so, anyway, it was just, at first you'd wake up at night and you'd go check and look at it and hold it. It was like Gollum with Precious, And so when you find something, it just can't sleep. Got to go look at it. And then later on, years later, the thing just became a material thing.
Yeah.
And it sat in a safe, and it was like, I ended up selling it.
Well, go ahead.
Well, the guy that bought it owned a coin shop, so selling that wasn't a hard problem. He had a buyer for it who backed out of it after he bought it. The guy backed out of it.
Yeah.
So the guy with the coin shop, he sent it in to get graded, and so it came back VF30 from the grading service, slabbed.
Uh-huh.
And I guess it was one of 100, roughly around 100, little over 100 known.
Really?
Yeah, so I forgot what they call that term, but they just go by the count of the known graded samples.
Yeah.
So it was like 100, right around 100 of them.
So it was worth some money then, huh?
Yeah, but the thing is, the odds of finding that coin were higher than hitting the Powerball.
Oh.
I would have sooner took the Powerball.
So I have never ever found a gold coin myself. I found gold rings, but never a gold coin. I know people who have. In fact, I know one person that found 10 $20 gold pieces. I don't know what year. When they tore down a bowling alley, So when they tear down them old buildings, that's what people need to do, is be hitting them areas with their detectors when they're doing the dirt work there.
I remember the first season, like me and my friend had metal detectors, and we went to one of these metal detecting club hunts, and we showed up with those Radio Shacks. So did we get laughed at?
I'll bet you did.
Yeah. So the next year I didn't go, and the year after that I showed up with my Radio Shack and my upgraded MXT and my gold coin. I got the last laugh.
Yeah.
So it was kind of funny. So anyway, yeah, after a while I was on that metal detecting forum, and a really unique thing happened. I don't know how many people watch your videos. There might be a few out there that were from way back in the early 2000 era that were on TNet. But my wife had got on my computer, onto my account, and got in an argument with the moderator, Jeff of PA. And she got me banned.
Your wife got you banned.
I think she was worried I might be chatting with some of the gal metal detectors.
Yeah.
And so, I wasn't though, but anyway, I mean, metal detecting was everything. I wouldn't even look the other way.
Yeah.
So anyway, she created. I felt bad. All these friends are gone. I'm all alone again. And so she created an avatar for me and a user ID, and she put a wireless card into the computer, and it changed our computer IP address.
Oh, really?
That's, yeah, yeah.
She's
That's another little
she's a
secret for
computer
people that get
guru,
booted
huh?
off. You get booted off, get a wireless card. So
Oh.
anyway, uh, she created my account and registered it, and the user ID was free to detect. And she took her daughter's face and put it on the bust of Pamela Anderson. So now, whenever I posted anything, I was this gal that was out hunting all the guys. It's kind of a bizarre story. I sent you a picture of that for the video. You'll love.
Okay.
I remember getting private messages.
Oh,
Some
really?
guy,
That's
yeah, some
funny.
guy in California. He said, "Oh, you're why I bought a metal detector. I was hoping to meet women like you."
Oh, that's funny. That's
No,
funny.
there's nothing funnier than true life. You know how it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, I gradually I got moved to Montana. Uh, Kind of left the metal detecting scene, off the forums. When we moved to Montana, the area is not as old for population wise or as much people to drop things. There's a lot of historic stuff, but and then gas jumped to $5 a gallon. So I started researching. So I had all this Terry stuff. I started reading other books. I started typing up Word documents on all the stuff I'm finding. And then, people I heard about Thomas Penfield. Okay. And so I started noticing something, and then I noticed it even more when I seen the books coming out on Amazon that are coming out now.
Uh-huh.
Is some of these books that are coming out now are total copies of Thomas Penfield's work from the 70s.
Ah, really?
Yeah, yeah. So I've seen reviews on books where they give them 1 star out of 5 and say for the review, he's stealing someone else's work.
Oh.
And so, I mean, I could see their point. If you're into reading lost treasure stories and you order a book and you get it and you find you already have it on your shelf with someone else's name on it,
Yep, that's
you
true.
know. So
That's true, and that happens a lot. A lot of these stories are just rehashed over and over and over in just different books. But that's why I was real interested in meeting and talking to you, because you're researching and finding stories that's not known about.
yeah, we started back in '06 attempting to do books. And so, but we started on this ghost town thing, this ghost town kick,
Uh huh.
And so, it was researching all these counties on all these little places that don't exist. And we started experimenting with these books, and they had maps and directions from this known location, like a different town, to how to get there, and even GPS coordinates.
Ah.
And so my wife's real good with computers. She found it used to be you had back then you had to pay for some download or something to be able to get the ability to get GPS.
Yep.
Well, she found on some geek site some link to where you just copy and paste it because you had it saved to a Word document up into the top search bar after you centered it on
Uh
your
huh.
map, and you hit enter, and that baby will pop the
Wow.
GPS. So, you know, they say there's all different ways to do things, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, but the thing was, we took them to the printers to have in town to have these books, and they go, "This is the best looking stuff coming in," but I did nothing sold. First off, we had built a website, but I didn't want to market. I just wanted to work on books at that time. And so I had space for a forum. I could have built a forum, and I didn't care to do that. I just wanted to do books and research.
You wanted to do the research and find the interesting stories, yeah.
And so that's where I was stuck, just doing that. And so when we were doing the ghost towns, I'd find all these little odd stories that were 1 or 2 sentences, and I'd save all that, and I flushed those out into short stories. And we called that book Twisted Tales of the Old West. And so, and they got all them bathroom readers. Just for fun, we made a Twisted Tales of the Old West outhouse reading book. And anyway, the thing's comical, you know what I mean? But, I almost had a place pick it up. But I said, well, they were going to order it. And I said, well, before you do, you might want to look it over. Some of it's not politically correct.
but you put it right the way it was written in the old newspapers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just how it was. Well, that one didn't use newspaper articles, but I knew how to fill in the hole.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, that was kind of a fun little thing. I had all these research books that I bought because I'd go wherever. We'd go to a junk shop, a mission. I'd see a book, whether it was Lambert's Ghost Town books or some other book. Even though I had maybe 2, 3 copies, I'd buy it to rescue it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I had so many books. One day she threatened, well, if you don't get ready to do something with these books, I'm going to take them back to the mission. And so I started listing books used on Amazon. And so I seen that some of these books I have, I'd buy them and I'd take them home because I'd never seen this before. Like this one for Wyoming. Medicine mining camps in the Medicine Bowl Mountains. I remember the first time I seen that, $1.79. Well, I took it home. It's got some good reading. There's couple sections I really like. A lot of history in it. But when I looked it up, it was used $130.
Wow.
And then nowadays it's used, I think it was $30. But if you can spend $2 and flip a book for $30, you're coming out ahead,
Yep.
So that's another form of treasure hunting, is things that are worth more. You learn that stuff when you're metal detecting anyway.
Yeah.
But there's all different aspects of things that are really worth money. Other people overlook it. And so, I got a bunch of files to send you. Some are Civil War buttons out of Wisconsin. And there's one button with a number 2 on it. And when I put that up on TNet, someone identified it saying it was a French regimental button from, I think, 1776 to 1781. So,
wow, cool.
If that is true, I hit a Revolutionary War button in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Wow, cool.
So, anyway, back to the books. We had listing these books on Amazon. And I realized, okay, I got a book I can make a decent profit on. Once it sells, it's gone.
Yeah.
And I said to my wife, we use these books. I talked to people that I meet at my one job, and they said there's this Amazon and CreateSpace. And my original books from the printer in town were spiral bound, and my maps were all muddy. Well, I found out with CreateSpace and Amazon, I can do Kindles. I can have my maps in full color.
Oh.
That's what I always wanted, was full color.
Yeah.
And so what gave us an advantage is my wife can do all the formatting, the editing. I create the maps. And so between us, we can do it all.
Cool.
And there's nobody to pay to proofread, nobody for formatting it, nothing.
Cool.
it's a lot of hours and work.
Oh,
But
yeah.
so anyway, she wanted to do the first book that we put up on Amazon was The Twisted Tales of the Old West, because it was already in 6x9, which is perfect for Kindle. And so anyway, 6x9. Then she wanted to do that metal detecting book. And so Novice to Gold Coin, Successful Treasure Hunting with Inexpensive Metal Detectors. She said, I'm like, you got too long a damn titles. So anyway, it's basically Novice to Gold Coin. You'll find that that book is actually 325 pages. And so the book covers just that whole time period and everything I went through, from finding coins to researching what this thing was, how much it was worth. You know, because most people, if they had something, if they took it to a coin shop and some coin dealer offered them, I'll give you $10 for that token. It's in my book. If he's offering you that $10, it's probably because he can sell it for 50 or more. He ain't doing that to help you out.
Yeah.
You know, and telling about state token books. If your token you got ain't in that book, it's unlisted variety. You made some money.
Cool.
If you want to sell it. Dog tags, that's all covered. Let's see, there's tons of stuff. Anything brass with writing on it is pretty much collectible.
Really?
Yeah, there's a collector out there for it. I used to hunt those demo sites after a heavy rain, and I'd get out there with my detector, and I just keep my eyes open because I was picking up seeded dimes sitting on top of the ground.
Wow.
The rain washed them all the dirt, so they're standing on a little pedestal of dirt. Just pick them up.
Cool.
And so you had to be out there a lot. You know, you catch stuff like that. Marbles, a Lutz marble with all the ribbon swirls in it, made in Germany. I had found one about so big, and if it didn't have any chips, there were smaller ones on these collector sites for marbles were over $100.
Really?
Yeah, this thing was even bigger than anything they had.
Wow.
I found that just laying on the ground, and I remember one time I was hunting this yard demo site, the same place I found the gold coin, and there was a sandier area, and so people in that area knew I was hunting that, and I see a shiny penny laying there. And so I pick it up, thinking somebody's just being a jerk throwing coins in. I pick it up. Honest to God, Indian head, 1867, that dentist color.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't know if that was stuck in the building or what, how that one ended up where it was. And so, anyway, my metal detecting book actually got a new review late recently, because I was real honest in my metal detecting book. I thought at one time to keep out the bad experiences I had with people.
Uh-huh.
And I decided to keep the bad experiences in, because anybody that metal detects is going to run into bad experiences.
Yeah. Yep.
And so these people that were just plain jerks, I mean, you're hunting areas you have every right to be on, but yet they feel they have the right to call the cops on you. Well, they caused me to, hey, I'm done with those areas. I'm never hunting through grass again. And that moved me into the demo and sidewalk demo sites. And so that's what led to me getting that gold coin.
Ah.
And so there's kind of like a little dedication to all you jerks. Thank you. In my book, you know.
Yeah, cool.
They led me to the best find I ever had. And so they also, I put in there about not showing my best finds when I'm hunting. And someone took that to put, well, he had a lot of great advice, but when I read that, I just cringed. And I thought, you know, at first I didn't know how to take that, you know. Here I help you out. I tell you about the book. Yeah, I can get that book because the mostly, I guess, they ever found was a mercury dime for coin wise, but they had found some really old buttons. And then I thought, no, that actually that review to explain it would make a nice little video and say, yeah, I remember when I found that gold coin and I told 2 or 3 people, and I hunt demo sites, and about a month later I go to hunt a demo site and I ask if it's okay, and I get told, well, the last time anyone hunted one of our demo sites, they found a $20 gold piece. And that was someone, it got around and
Yeah.
the coin grew. And I just, well, that must have been the one I heard about.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, okay, but I want to see anything you find. And so, and ironically, I got, I'm digging my small junk brass because that's in my book. That's the secret to them old coins. The smaller the piece of junk brass you can find, you ain't going to be missing them older coins. I get an 1873 nickel 3-cent piece off,
Wow.
off that site while I'm hunting it.
Yeah.
And when I showed my finds, that wasn't in my hand. And, there's a reason. Now, there we go. That's why I didn't show it, because I knew
Yeah.
this guy's already advertised. He's going to take it.
Yep.
God gave you a brain, use it. So anyway, back to the Montana books that I guess caught your attention. So we move out here. I started studying these lost treasure stories. I read Thomas P. Terry's. They're real short, 1 or 2 sentences, 1 or 2 paragraphs. I discover someone mentioned Thomas Penfield. I get his. His are a little longer, okay? But I'm thinking there's got to be more to these stories. And so I've read everything I can find to read. Um, Here, sadly, you can't use really interlibrary loan, because if they got it in their archives, they won't interlibrary loan it. You can read it there, and some of these books are county histories, 500 pages thick.
Uh-huh.
I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I told my wife when she said about getting rid of these books, I said, hey, let's try doing our books over. We can do them on Kindle. We can do them on CreateSpace. And, we started with that. And that first book I mentioned, the metal detecting book, came out good. I had, back in 2006, had a book called Montana Treasure Stories. Vulcan Press almost picked it up. But they didn't want Henry Plummer to be a criminal, the bad guy. They wanted him to be innocent. They didn't want me to use maps,
Really?
And so I've got the book wrote. Now you want me to make all these changes? Oh, and they want double word count. So I got this, and it's spiral bound out of my local printer,
Yeah.
And so, Falcon Press said, and break it up into the 6 tourist regions. That's the only thing I kept out of what they said. And so we had the 6 tourist regions of the state. And at one time, Yellowstone County, which is Billings is in, was part of Yellowstone Country. But then the tourist organization of the state reshifted the border. So Yellowstone County is now part of Custer Country, which was renamed as Southeast Country. So southeast section of the state I kept the name Custer Country because it's the lost treasures of Montana, Custer Country. I thought that a little more nicer sounding than Southeast Montana.
Yeah.
So we had our sections, Gold West, 1,050 pages of material. There's a minimum of 46 lost treasures in that section of the state before we even got into working on it that
Really?
I knew of. And the thing is,
and these are all stories that aren't known about very well. They're stories that you dug up and found, right?
no.
Oh, okay.
These are the brief mentions
of
Thomas P. Terry and Thomas Penfield.
Okay.
These are their brief mentions. But my wife's real good on online search.
Uh-huh.
I thought I read and memorized everything there is to know. She will dig up stuff I've never seen before. It blows me away.
Cool.
And so my name's on the book. Basically, the idea is me. I proofread all these articles she finds. That goes to this story. That one actually goes to this story over here. Set this aside if we do anything on rustlers, because it's good. And then we organize it and then make it flow. So our first effort with Montana was The Lost Treasures of Montana, Yellowstone Country. And because after we got into this, I looked at what's out there for the state, and that it's someone else's work getting redone. Ours was different.
Ah.
And actually, the secret, the book was only 60 pages long, but if you typed on Amazon Books, Lost Treasure Montana, it was #1. The day it went up, and we held it until we pulled it to redo it into a second edition.
Really?
So, yeah, Yellowstone Country had been redone, uploaded, and then ordered a proof copy, gone through, reread it, highlighted anything I thought should be corrected. Then me and my wife, she'd be on the laptop with the book, and I'd direct her through the book to all the highlighted spots, and we'd do the corrections, or she'd say, no, that's correct. There's words in there that in those old articles, I didn't even know they were really words because of how they wrote in the old days in them old newspapers. Yep. And so, anyway, Yellowstone today got re-uploaded again, and it's we'll need another proof order, and then I compare both books, and then I might have a couple to fix, and then it's fix them, re-upload it, make it live. So Yellowstone Country went from 60 pages to around 280. Custer Country, I've got yet work to do in it, but it was only 102 pages, but I know it's going to be over 300.
Wow.
Missouri Country, Northeast Montana, 182 pages is 408. Russell Country, 404 pages. Glacier Country, I think it's 441. And then Gold West 1 is 510. Gold West 2 is 540 pages. And that's the one that is available for free for people with Amazon Prime Kindle.
So for these listeners out here, if they have Amazon Prime Kindle, they can get that for free. And what's the name of it?
Gold West, The Lost Treasures of Montana, Gold West Country, Volume 2.
Okay.
And this section has Butte, Silver Bowl County, Powell County, Broadwater County, Deer Lodge. And so for people that might be familiar with Montana, there was that famous story out of Deer Lodge, Springer's Lost Ledge or Springer's Lode. And it was this old guy that followed all the gold stampedes, and he never did well. And he left from Deer Lodge, and he'd go and he'd come back with just enough rich ore. He'd pound it out, pan it out the gold, and he'd have enough to go on a week drunk. Mm-hmm. And then this one hotel, he would do odd jobs, sleep in the basement, get a grub stake, go out and do it again. So they knew over time, he knew where he was going to get some rich ore. And that actually was around the Emory, that big mining camp that everybody had all these big hopes for to develop. And it never happened. But they knew this guy named Springer was going in there. Now, it's considered a legend. Okay?
Uh-huh.
That's considered just a legend. But in our research, we found there was a doctor named Frost from the Big Timber area, and his father was another Montana pioneer that was an Indian agent that was killed. But when they first came out to Montana, this Dr. Frost, in a newspaper interview, was telling when he was young, when his parents moved to Deer Lodge, he wanted to hear about the story of Springer's Lost Mine. And so he was told to go talk to the proprietor of this hotel. And the guy's name is Scott. Scott, the proprietor of the hotel, is in all these stories and legends. We found the newspaper article of the interview of the doctor telling about going to Scott's hotel.
Really?
And so Scott had told him over time about the story, and the hotel existed.
So now it's not a legend. Now it's a true documented. You've got documentation to this. Is more than just a legend.
We found some material that if people read it, they're going to have to relook this story.
Yeah.
And so, and we found that, like today I got asked about the Lost Cabin Mine. You know, we found there's Lost Cabin Mine stories all the way from the Bighorn Mountains, the Gallatin Mountains, way up in Flathead area of Montana.
Yeah, well, we got lost cabin mines here, or treasures here in Utah. I think they're all over the place.
Got lost cabin mines there too?
Yeah.
And so they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Yep. But the Lost Cabin Mine in the Bighorns, if you're ever familiar with the three miners, and one's name was Hubert. I don't know if you ever recalled that version.
I don't know that.
Well, anyway, the two miners, Hubert was hunting. The other two were mining, and he heard a bunch of gunfire. And he seen that his partners were all killed by apparently Sioux. So after they left, he went and grabbed what supplies he could, and he started booking cross country down to catch one of the emigrant trails into the crossing over that led eventually to South Pass. Well, we found an article by a guy that died in Miles City, and it was about his life. And in this article, it told about his meeting Hubert.
Really?
When he came across a wagon train. And so he told his story, and there was a whole bunch of guys wanting right now to go back to that Lost Cabin Mine. And so this guy, in the story of his life, he told of meeting this guy. Wow. And so we're turning up all these connections.
Yeah.
All between this story and that story. There was one very brief mention for 10 plus years. Centennial Valley. There's supposed to be a tree with Henry Plummer's name carved on it. 150,000 buried near it. Anyway, I could never find nothing. Once my wife got involved with these books, she turned up the article where it made the paper back around 1910, 1911, 1914. Really? Some guys were chopping wood. They seen the tree, they chopped it down, they saved the chunk of wood with Plummer's name in it, and they hid it, and years later, one donated it to what was then the normal school in Dillon, Montana. And now that is the Beaverhead County Museum in Dillon, Montana. And so this year for marketing, we did PDF samples. And so if they got a gift shop, I email them, you might be interested in this book. And it was Beaver Gold West Volume 1. And we attached the PDF sample, and it had the article showing about the tree piece with Plummer's name, 1862, and a picture of it in a glass case.
Really?
And then I called down there. She goes, yeah, I got your PDF. That piece of tree's in our museum.
Really?
They're in the old normal school, their museum. So she goes, where did you get that article? I go, oh, my wife found it online in the archives. And so she goes, we got that in the museum. So then we're joking about Henry Plummer loot. So while we're on the phone, she's talking, and I could tell she really is questionable, her viewpoint of Henry Plummer having gold.
Uh-huh.
And so I said, "Oh, you mean the gold at Robber's Roost?" And she laughed, and I go, "Yeah, well, the third mayor of Butte, William Owlsley, who was one of the vigilantes and he went on to become the third mayor of Butte, claimed that he offered 300,000 buried within 100 yards of a corral post if he would let Plummer go." And of course, they hung him. But I said, "Oh, Owlsley spent several weeks each summer for a few years digging around there, trying to find the gold, and finally gave up, saying he needed a steam shovel to find it."
Huh.
And I said, "But whether anybody believes Plummer had gold or not, there is buried gold at Robber's Roost." And I said, "It's Mrs. Pete Daly's. She took care of the people that stayed at the stage stop, the rooms, the meals, and this was during the mining boom, and they would tip her with a pinch of gold dust. And her husband, Pete Daly, drank and gambled, so she kept that hid from her husband. And she lived in a little cabin in back." And I said, "When she died, they never found her chip jar of gold dust."
Wow.
So that is still around Robber's Roost. And
so this is the Robber's Roost that's in Montana, because we got Robber's Roosts in Utah. We got them, yeah. So this is a Robber's Roost that's in Montana.
Yeah, in Montana. And to top it off, there's another Robber's Roost closer to Dillon and Bannock. And supposedly that was a high peak, and it was named Robber's Roost because they could have a look out there and see for miles anything coming. And there was a place called Road Agent's Rock. And so there's different stories about Road Agent's Rock. One was thought it was a story concocted to promote tourism. But yet there's these old-time pioneers, and their newspaper interviews told stories of Road Agent's Rock. And so I have topo maps of that, some of these places, almost all these things in these books. So it's kind of unique because we thought as we did these books, people that metal detected or treasure hunted would like these books.
Definitely.
What we didn't know was that's the niche market. People that metal detect or treasure hunt, that's really a really small niche market.
Yep.
We didn't know what we were accomplishing until I took like this Yellowstone, this first book done, 60 pages, and I took it to work, and one of the salespeople said, "Oh, you should take that to the Western Heritage Museum." So I called, and I have to try to find a way to get these in anyway. So I called, set up an appointment. I showed them, and they ordered 12 right away. Okay, 12 right off the bat. I go, "Well, that's not really your tourist area. Your area is the book I'm working on, Custard Country." And she goes, "Well, how soon can you have? We'll take 12 of those." And how soon can you have it done? "Oh, about a month." So here I had to order for a book. Really, I hadn't started, but they ordered it based on what they seen we could do.
Yeah.
And so anyway, then I thought, well, I might as well go big. I'm going up to the airport, the Billings Logan International Airport. And I met with them, and they ordered, I think it was 24 of each, Yellowstone and Custer. And then right now I'm up to 16 places, but I work double jobs 7 days a week, so I don't get too much marketing time. And, could you imagine trying to sell these books when you're burnt out on the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I don't even want to be around me either. So anyway, that's how it's so much easier with PDFs. You could just send them an email, and they got the beautiful cover and the intro. And anyway, they can make up their mind.
Yeah.
We shut off about a week ago, some of them, and I got an email back already. So anyway, but it's early in the season, and some of these places they're seasonal.
Yeah.
There's nobody at them right now, you know. And so I decided, when I've had people tell me about this YouTube thing, and I thought, yeah, I don't mind telling stories, you know. But what's funny about these stories is they were lost treasure, regional history, and westerns all rolled into one. These books, they're real than anything for lost treasure that's ever been before. And so some of our stories are 30, 40, or more pages long.
Really?
Yeah, there's actually some meat to these stories. There's a little account of the story, which is basically typed up, and it's kind of just like what this was the start of our story. And it's kind of what Terry and Penfield had. And then the research starts coming in. The old newspaper archives where the story made the paper back on some 1870s, 1860s, 1880s.
Yeah. So I'm just, I have the Thomas and the Perry books and Penfield books, and a lot of them, they're just a little paragraph saying, where they got the information, but you've tracked down, got the information, the newspaper articles, and all that.
Yeah, and so they had the info, I believe, but they were trying to condense and cover as much as could in these books. And then you look at the size of their books, they weren't being like lazy with it. For them, that's what a publisher did back then.
Yeah.
Local publisher, like Terry had specialty publishing. There was all those little publishers that are no more.
So I know from my research and things, that there is a lot of information out there that we just don't know about, and you've stumbled on ways of getting that. I remember I was tracking down an old Roman coin that was found in Logan, Utah, by Victor Crockett. He was plowing his field in the 1800s and turned it up with a plow. And for that to be there in the 1800s, I wanted to see the newspaper article, and it came out in the newspaper article in the late 1800s, and so I had to go. This before the internet. I had to go to the local university who happened to have it on microfiche, those old papers, and I had to sift through all them old papers to find it. And in my in my process of sifting through them, I come across several other interesting stories. One that here at Utah Lake, where I live here in Utah County, they seen the old pioneers reported these. They described these lights like flying saucers flying over the lights and over the Utah Lake, and nobody knew what that was, because this is in the late 1800s. And I'm thinking that is strange that they would report these unidentified flying objects, at night, these lights flying around in the late 1800s. But there's all kinds of stories like that, and you've figured out how to tap into them and get them stories. So that's awesome.
Well, I'm going to shift here in a bit to the stuff you like.
Okay.
But yeah, when you talk about a coin found, we stumbled on a story for up in the northwest Montana, where guys there was a legend of some money buried, and he's plowing a field, and he finds 3 $20 gold pieces and a part of a can. He lets the guy he works for know, and they found the rest of the can, and kind of like based on the legend, but he just stumbled on it plowing.
Right.
We found articles where people were dowsing for treasure up in areas, and all sorts of stuff, like the water witchers,
yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. We got old articles on that stuff. There's a lot of interesting reading in these books. But now, when we first talked on the phone and you wanted to do this interview, you said, "Oh, do you have anything on giant skeletons? Do you have anything on little people?"
Yeah.
I knew off the top of my head some of this stuff. Remember that?
You did. Yep, you did.
Okay. Anybody listening? When I lived in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I had discovered these Thomas Terry books, well, they had this one odd title that I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. True Tales of La Crosse. And so there were some unique things like the ghost of Grand Crossing and all these newspaper articles on it, which ended on one night someone shot and killed the ghost. There was one article on some construction going on, and they unearthed two giant skeletons.
Ah.
But I think it even gave exactly where that was in town. But the thing is, True Tales of La Crosse is available online. You can Google it and read it for free.
Cool.
Okay? Now, that one I knew off the top of my head for giant skeletons. And then you asked about little people.
Yep.
Oh, now, I didn't know, is this guy Irish or what's going on? Do you want leprechauns? What kind of little people do you want? I know of some little people. Okay? And so, there was this bar. When you took 212 past Laurel and you went through into Lovell, Wyoming, on the way there was this little town that had a bar that was supposed to have a museum of the little people, and we never stopped, but it burnt down. Okay? You might find some information on that one, but the Pryor Mountains, according to the Crow tribe, is the home of the little people. I have 36 pages about the little people according to the Crow tribe.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, awesome.
And I think we'll probably PDF and send it to you.
Cool.
You know, because you're into this stuff.
Yep.
But now because of where I work at one of these places, I meet a lot of people that are part of different Native American tribes. And so I talked a couple days ago to some that are part of the Crow tribe. And so these people I'm talking to that are part of the Crow tribe said that Chief Plentycoo was given 4 sacred arrows from the little people. Okay?
Okay.
And that these were now moved a while back to the Smithsonian Institution.
Huh.
They're there. I don't know if you can visibly see them by doing an online research for the Smithsonian. But anyway, my wife had found these pages and said to read them. So I started to read them. And the Crow tribe at the time was going to move north of the Missouri River up into the Little Rockies. But prior to this, Chief Plentycoo found out his brother was killed by the Sioux. And so he did where he wanted to go up on a mountain. I don't know whether you term it he went to a sweat lodge. He was hoping for a vision. And anyway, he heard a voice and it told him he went on the wrong mountain. Okay? And so any references people are finding on this, the visions and experiences Chief Plentycoo had, all go back to one from 1930. And when I send you this, you'll see who the original recorder of this stuff is. And apparently he got it direct from Chief Plentycoo.
Wow.
So Chief Plentycoo went to, I think it's, on the Pryor Mountains. The little people are supposed to live in Medicine Rock. So there was the name of a hill he was on, and he heard this voice, and he says it was in the back of his head. Now this is what's strange is you listen to these terms that he used. It was the back of his head, and he seen a person by his right, and he couldn't really make them out, but they were kind of like a little glow.
Uh-huh.
And so they were moving down a direction, and he was following them, but he said his feet never touched the ground. So what I'm reading is sounding like he's levitating.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a little bit ago about these lights, and he was talking about lights, and he's following, but his feet don't touch the ground. And he comes to this lodge and he goes in, and he said that there were a group in there on the south side of the lodge, and they didn't want him there. And he recognized them as the elements. And the rest told him to sit on their side, and he said that they were dwarves, and he said that they were no taller than his knee, but really strong, and that he later seen one could carry a full-grown elk on its shoulders.
Really?
But it's a dwarf.
Yeah.
And so apparently they said, because they used to give like a medicine bag as a gift. The brave would get a medicine bag from some spirit animal or something. And they said they didn't have a gift to give him. They apparently, my understanding is they gave the 4 sacred arrows to the tribe. He took them back. They told him his gift was a natural gift, that all he had to do was use it to his best ability, and he would become great. So anyway, that's in this 36 pages. Since we talked or attempted, my wife did a little online search, pulled up the Native American accounts of the Little People for the Pryor Mountains of Montana for you. And
awesome.
You said, you talked about us pulling up stuff on research.
Yeah.
And I just made her some little, I call them my keyword search, Chief Planiku, Little People, Pryor Mountains, Sacred Arrows. And
so why that interests me, these little people, because people don't know this, but I have found that there's a correlation between these little people and the giants. So that's why these little people interest me. So, and because of that little person, and you know about it, that they found in that catacomb that there was no entrance into, Pedro in Wyoming.
Yeah, and I told you one time on the phone, now he supposedly disappeared, no one knew where he was, and I had seen he had made the newspaper a couple years ago. Some family had him in their attic, and they had inherited him. I remember reading the thing, and I knew right away, this is the guy from the San Juan Mountains, just because, I don't know, maybe some of us people, this certain bizarre, odd, not accepted stuff kind of sticks with us,
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, we got all sorts of books out. I set up that Facebook group page, Lost Treasures Montana.
So that's on Facebook. They just type in Lost Treasures Montana.
Yeah, I typed it in when we made it, and here we're the only hit.
Cool.
There's nothing else. So, and membership's small. They can request to join. I check it daily. Either me or my wife's daughter's like an admin on it. Let people in. If they got a question about a book, they can ask, and I'll tell them what the book's about. If they're thinking of buying it or as a gift, no problem. So I can use that for answering questions. If, hey, do you know about such and such treasure? I can see what we got if I know offhand, or, whatever they want to ask.
So with that being said, Pete, because I know you and your wife are great researchers, and this just came to my head just now, so I don't know if you would do this or you'd have time to do this. If somebody wanted you to research a specific topic for them, for a fee, would you do that for them, or is that something you're too busy right now to do with, or this just maybe not even feasible? It's just something that popped in my head, because there's a lot of people who are researching a lot of things, but they don't have the know-how, the experience, or how to research this stuff. And would you be willing to do something like that?
I guess we'd consider it, So that's not a problem. It'd be kind of flattering to get asked that,
So how's the best way for somebody to reach you through Facebook, if they want to purchase your book, or how's the best way through Facebook? Is that the best way to get with you?
Yeah, if they go to that Facebook group, see, the name's Pete Netzal on Facebook.
Spell your last name.
Netzel.
Pete Netzal, okay.
So, but if they do go to the Facebook group, I got pictures of our book brochures that we did, And so my Yahoo email's on there and my cell number, you know. Be nice to get a call from someone other than a telemarketer. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, there's more books coming because we're working on Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota. I got so much material on Utah.
I can't wait for you to get to Utah. Hurry up and get that. Put that high priority on your list. Skip the other states
Yeah,
and get
so
to
I
Utah.
mean, and I don't know. Did you have any more final questions?
You got one super duper last story to leave us with.
If people look on Amazon, Dubuque, Iowa's Forgotten Gold. You know, everybody, when we were metal detected in the Midwest, we all thought, oh, if you're going to get a gold coin, you got to go to Dubuque because of that old miser, Tom Kelly. You know, everybody knew he had, from following Terry's stuff, he had all that hoarded away gold coins up on the bluff. And so I remember thinking, yeah, before I ever found my gold coin, I got to get to Dubuque, Iowa. Oh, this leads into a good story. This leads even better. Is I find my gold coin, and I called Thomas Terry up because I call him once in a blue moon. Usually, this was in a stage when he was working on collector toy magazine catalogs. He left the treasure stuff and moved into collector catalogs.
Ah.
So if you look on Amazon Books, you'll see all these toys we had as kids.
Yeah.
He was doing collector catalogs. You know how we liked the stuff we had as a kid?
Yep.
He was doing collector catalogs. So I called him up. Hey, I found a gold coin. Do you want to come over and see it? He come over, and he looked at that coin. Oh, that's probably worth a couple hundred. He didn't even realize it was a Dahlonega.
Really?
Yeah, which didn't bother me. But what was a shocker to me, because I had idolized him because of his books, got me into this, and he had done all these adventures all over the country looking for treasure. And I said, how many gold coins did you ever find? And he said, none. I traveled all over, and here there was one in my hometown. And so when we moved to Montana, he gave me a whole set of his treasure atlases. He had thrown away most of his research file newspaper stuff.
Really?
He gave me what he had left.
Wow.
And in it was a vanilla envelope of these photocopies from old newspapers from all the way back to 1867. But they were so dark you couldn't read it.
Uh-huh.
And so it was from the Carnegie Library in Dubuque, Iowa. And I could see it was all Tom Kelly stuff. So apparently Thomas Terry was planning a Tom Kelly book. He had the material. So I was working these double jobs 7 days a week and then trying to write ahead of my wife and then do the proofreading. And I couldn't keep up. And she says I'm a horrible writer. Okay? If you see some spot that don't make any damn sense, that's me. So anyway, that's a good clue for the purist of pursuing Pete Netzal's awesome career. If it's just don't make sense, that's him. And so anyway, I said, hey, I got that vanilla. She wanted something to do. And I tell her, oh, do a book on Keys Lost Diggings. And so we got that book, Keys Lost Diggings, a lost gold placer in northern Montana. And so that's kind of a unique book we did on one Montana treasure story. Wow. She wanted something else to do. Do a book on the Benders from Kansas, those murderers that had that little, remember, you've heard of them, right? The Benders, Labette, Kansas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I said, well, do a book on the Benders. It seems like those sell. That's kind of a brush off. So anyway, she says, well, you got something for me to do? And I said, I got that vanilla envelope from Terry. And let me see if I still got that. And this is like, he handed me this in 2004 or 5. and this is like 2016.
Uh-huh.
12 years later, I still had that. And I said, here, there's probably a whole story in that. And so, anyway, she looks at these photocopies, and they're so black. She goes, what the heck could I do with that? Well, she was able to find all the articles plus some.
Oh, really?
Going in, online searches, and she used to work for some company business that made part of the Minneapolis Tribune. So she, besides the computer skills, had the background on how to get into the old archives.
Into the old archives.
Yeah, it's like, what a fluke, huh?
Yeah. Well, I know what you're talking. Why them one things were black is because that's how you had to print them when they came off the old microfiche. They printed up black. You know.
Yeah. And so we got the original material Terry sent for in a vanilla envelope.
Yeah.
And we turned it into a book on Tom Kelly. And it turned out he was a local legend in Dubuque, and there was never a book on him. We were the first.
Really?
Yeah, just out of a fluke,
Yeah.
So someday I'll be doing YouTube on the old Tom Kelly book,
Cool.
So it's just bizarre stuff, ironic stuff that happens. So
Pete, man, I really appreciate you, taking the time to talk to us about your research, about your books, some of the tips, where to go metal detecting, what to look for. I really appreciate that. And for that free part of your book that we can get from Amazon Prime. So thank you for those.
I guess Amazon Prime Kindle is a separate charge from Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And so I offered it out there, and some people go, I got Amazon Prime, but I can't get it. And so Kindle was a little different. And then all the books we do on the Montana series, I checked lending. So if someone buys the Kindle, they can share it.
Oh, well, that's nice of you. Thank you.
I think what we've done is we kind of raised the bar way up here.
It sounds like you really have.
And so if people read them, they're going to, these would be ideal. If people want to buy something for their grandfather or whatever, these are Westerns, man.
Yeah.
And they're real. This ain't made up Louis L'Amour's.
Yep.
Okay, we'll let you go.
Awesome, Pete. Man, thank you, and that's a wrap.
Okay, take care.
So